Hello, it's Hayden Williams here, and it's the Man in the Mirror podcast. It's your weekly fix of self-care, self-image, grooming, and me having a sneaky peek around a guest's bathroom cabinet and finding out about the key items in their morning and evening routines. This week, I'm delighted to let you know I'm joined by Josh Cuthbert, who is one quarter of band Union J. They found fame on the X Factor in the UK just over 10 years ago. So Josh is a singer, as part of a band, but he's also a content creator and has got a huge following on Instagram, nearly 450,000 followers, and does a lot of content with his wife, Chloe Lloyd. I first spotted Josh's content because I saw that he had some links with fragrance and was doing some really interesting content with some brands such as Mont Blanc. So I eagerly started following him and realised that he was part of a band that I remember from 10 years ago. I had a chat on Zoom with Josh, such an interesting guy, and someone who's also been very open about their mental health journey and the difficulties he had a few years ago, and actually, very honest about the fact that it's still a sort of ongoing process and there's still sort of work to do. So a really interesting conversation, which I think you're going to take a lot from, and someone that's very emotionally eloquent and fascinating. So it's me, Hayden Williams, on the Man in the Mirror podcast with my guest, Josh Cuthbert. Here we go. Hello and welcome along to Man in the Mirror. It's Hayden Williams here. And this week, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by singer and digital creator, Josh Cuthbert. Morning, Josh. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Yourself?
I'm really good. It's the start of the week. Lots of exciting things happening. And I'm really happy and honoured that you've joined me this morning. And I've seen some of your content online and obviously sort of watched your journey over the last 10 or 11 years. And as I said in my introduction, people will probably know you from Union J and X Factor sort of 10, 11 years ago. And you've had a really interesting route over the sort of intervening years. But it'd be great if we go back to the beginning, really. And I'd love to know if you could take me back to, I think it was 2012, wasn't it, your X Factor year?
It was, yeah. God, you're making me feel old.
I know, well, me too, even older. But what was life like? What were you up to, before you turned up to those big lines outside, various arenas around the country? What were you up to? What was your path before that? Because you would have been, 19, 20, something like that?
Yeah, I was 19 on the first X Factor audition, just turned 19. Previous to that, I'd auditioned for X Factor a couple of times before that. Once when I was 14.
Did you?
I got to the last 8 boys when I was 14. So it was the year they opened the show up to under 16s, because normally the kind of threshold was 16 years plus.
Yeah.
But for 1 year, they opened it up to 14-year-olds, and I thought, well, great, this is my opportunity to...
You were in.
Exactly. My application was in straight away, but I was too young. There was no way I was at an age where I could have dealt with anything that came 5 years later for me. There's no way I could have dealt with that at 14. But I was just very much very normal boy. I loved my sports. I loved my football.
And were you at college? So if you were 19, 20, were you working? Were you at college? What was happening elsewhere?
So I left college. I didn't go to uni because I still had the dream of being a singer. And I sort of thought that uni would be, would prevent that from
distraction.
Happening. Yeah, exactly. So I then kind of realised that I actually need to get a normal job here. I need to make some money. So I managed to get myself into some IT sales at IBM, which sounds very boring. But it was like cloud and storage backup and software. It was very, very different to what I do now. That's for sure. But
ahead of the audition and you were doing that job, did you enjoy it? Did you think, God, this could be my path, or was it very much a sort of means to an end because your eyes were on, the sort of singing and trying to make a go of that?
It was I was very lucky to get it. Actually, my sort of, the interview process, there were so many interviews. So I was actually really proud of myself for getting that job, because I was up against a lot of graduates, a lot of people that have come straight from uni. So I didn't have those qualifications.
Company,
exactly. And in my head, it was a kind of stopgap. Well, hopefully in between trying to make it in the industry, but actually the it sort of got to the point where I was like, this is actually just going to be my life now. I tried so many auditions. I've been in so many different bands from the age of 13 to 19. And I tried so many different routes, and nothing was I get so close, but then I'd fall at the last hurdle, or it would get a last minute no. So my headspace was very much defeated. And actually, X Factor, I was at IBM for a year.
Right.
And then I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do X Factor with a band that I've been approached to do by various different managers and all that stuff. And I just thought, I'm going to give this one last go. And if this doesn't work, then I'm going to be 19, 20. And I feel like in my head, it was like the last hurrah, the last go at the last roll of the dice. And luckily it paid off, and it did well. Yeah. So
it's funny, isn't it? How, sometimes it seems like it's a sort of well told story of that, that kind of last chance saloon, and how that somehow sort of concentrates the mind. And it's always such a brilliant story when it's like, I got one more shot, or, the final penalty or whatever. And it paid off. And actually that year of the X Factor, I was just looking back, and we watched it in our house here anyway, but it was quite a vintage year, wasn't it, Josh?
Oh,
there was
crazy.
Obviously James Arthur winning, Ella Henderson, who didn't sort of finish that high in the rankings, but has obviously gone on to be, a great writer and solo artist. And then, of course, Rylan, who people in the UK will know is now a TV presenter, and Lucy Spraggan and people like that. So, and it was really sort of peak X Factor, wasn't it, if you could call it that, in terms of viewing figures and where it was in the zeitgeist. It was a big deal, wasn't it? And you guys did so well.
In my opinion, it was and I'm not just saying it because we were in it, but it was the most talented year by a long way. Most X Factor years, but not necessarily in the last few years of it, but certainly, like you said, when it was in its heyday, which we were lucky enough to be involved in, you had one or two really talented and successful people that went on and did well. Whereas in our year, you had you had 5 or 6, and you're sitting there thinking, God, any other year we could have actually had a chance of maybe winning it. You never know. But it was an amazing thing to be a part of. It was a roller coaster. It was, I could be here all day talking about that experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, it certainly was an interesting time.
And it sort of, it absolutely vindicates what you were saying about the talent pool that year, because with someone like James Arthur and Ella Henderson, and they kind of went away and came back sort of reinvented and are still doing their thing now. So it probably isn't even a legacy of, of course people might remember them from those shows, but they've sort of kind of set their path just as sort of singer-songwriters, haven't they, since? And
Absolutely.
Real talents. No, I was just saying about Union J. I mean, you celebrated 10 years last year, and I guess there was a sort of hiatus in between, but you're back doing shows and arena shows this year, aren't you?
We are, yeah. We've got, so we did a 10-year anniversary show at the Palladium last May, which was, honestly, mate, was the most incredible feeling for me. It was just absolutely brilliant, because for the first time in my life, in the industry, I felt free. I felt kind of like it was on our terms. It was actually an incredible experience just to sit there. There were no snakes and no horrible people working behind us behind the scenes. It was just us. We got to choose the team. We got to choose everything about it. And it just felt so special. I just felt complete up on that stage. And it was lovely. It was great just to have my friends and family in the audience and have all of the diehard fans there. Was just a really amazing feeling. And we've got a tour coming up in May this year. I don't know if it will be the last ever one. I don't know what the future holds. But I think in life you can't plan too much in advance. You just have to enjoy the moment, because especially in our industry, you don't know when things are going to be over. When Union J originally kind of split up and we got dropped from the label, that came out of absolutely nowhere. So actually, ever since then, I've always had this real challenge to trust anything apart from what is happening right in that present moment, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. And I think it's so interesting what you talk about, because the amount of bands that say, this is the farewell tour, and then of course it's such I can imagine it's such a buzz that, or whatever circumstances bring it along. But yeah, you're right. There's no need to kind of put a full stop on it if you don't need to. But equally, people, I think you hope fans and people understand that life has different paths and people need to go on their own journeys, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, we need to make a decision in our heads before the tour starts if this is going to be the last one, because we've been through so much, so many highs, so many lows, that actually it does take its toll on you as a human being. And as amazing as the Palladium show was last May, it also brought up for us all opened up a lot of wounds that we had for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And it's not meaning to sound ungrateful, but actually the most important thing is now I'm very much intact with my mental health, and I understand why I feel the way I feel at times. You have to protect yourself. You have to safeguard yourself from getting yourself in those headspaces, because I've had it where it completely controls my life, that I don't want that to happen again. So yeah, but like I said, on the flip side, it's very exciting, and I get to do the thing that I love most, which is being on stage performing again.
But you've definitely, it sounds to me like you've got that sort of benefit of perspective now, and you're all men now and matured, and it sounds like you can have that view on it, and in the end, trying to protect yourself and your family and your own mental health, and that absolutely takes precedence. So, I mean, if we could rewind a bit to, it feels like I'm kind of skating over all the brilliant stuff, and I don't mean to do that, but obviously Union J had some real success, but then, as you said, there was the deal finished. I wonder how things felt then, and that downside, which we don't often hear about so much. I mean, did it bruise you? Did it mean you didn't want to carry on in music, or did you see it just as a sort of bump in the road? What happened at the end of the sort of the label experience?
It's I think it's something I still deal with.
Really?
It's something it was a very difficult thing to process. Long story short, we've never felt more secure and more successful at what we were doing than that moment that we were dropped, which I think was the hardest thing to process, because actually normally in bands and music you can kind of feel it coming. With a lot of jobs in life, you can feel when you're going to get, because essentially what it is you're getting sacked. Like in a nutshell, you are getting sacked from the label. It's no different than getting made redundant and in 9-to-5 jobs. It's the exact same thing. So I think in a lot of circumstances you can see when you're going to get sacked and you can feel it coming, but we didn't. And I think that was what hit us so hard, is that this just came out of absolutely nowhere.
And what were the reasons given, Josh?
No reason. No, this is the brutal truth. No reason was given at the time.
Oh God!
Since we found out little things here and there that I actually can't. I mean, I could, but it's
no. Yeah. I just wonder if because that must make it harder in a way, as you say. It's maybe you find out retrospectively, but at the time, if you just say, well, the label's not going to support you anymore, and you're dropped effectively, and I presume something like that comes through a manager, you're just sort of left in a void, aren't you? And I worked at labels myself, and I can see with acts, there's an incredible sort of support network and infrastructure around making everything happen, but all that's there as long as things are good, and as you say, but the rug is pulled pretty swiftly, and that can feel left empty, aren't you? You do the trivial things of getting Addison Lee cars all around the place, or just and having people that make life easier.
I think just having a support network. I think just having because it's such a hard industry to navigate your way around, being a 21, 22, 23-year-old boy. And I think just all of a sudden overnight not having anyone there to support you anymore or care about you or help you in the industry that is so difficult to, like I said, navigate your way around. That was just so tough.
Did you carry on then as a band?
We did for a bit. We had some summer shows booked in. We had some gigs booked in. So we had kind of the rest of the year planned out, but it was just very difficult to stay motivated and to stay. All of a sudden people were filling our ears with individual opportunities and turning heads, and then we kind of went against each other and there was no trust. I think the trust thing for me is the hardest thing. I've really struggled to trust anyone, from friends, family, business people, whatever it is. I found it really difficult to actually just trust people since that experience. And that's taken me many years of kind of therapy, of speaking to people, of opening up to actually get myself in a position to trust again.
Yeah.
But it's really brutal because people don't see the kind of negatives and the cutthroat stuff that happens. People just see what people want to see, right? And what we want to give out there.
You know, for the music fans and the general public, you kind of, the narrative and the story arc, if you like, of those talent shows is, you know, sort of building everyone up and you know, seeing who wins or seeing who comes out of it and releases records. But you don't think of what happens when someone sort of spat out the other side. And I'm so sorry to hear that it sort of infiltrated other areas of your life. And of course it would, wouldn't it? That, you know, if you feel like you've been let down in your sort of career part of your life, of course it then affects your, and as you say, it would be the same in anybody being made redundant or something like that. It sort of affects your confidence and your sense of self in other areas of life, doesn't it? How you get on in relationships and friendships and all those things. So it must have been a really tough time. And you say, if you're doing it with 3 friends in the band, and then there's that slight sort of
competition,
divide and conquer thing going on of, you should go solo, or you're the best, you should go and do that, and then you end up with sort of that acrimony and bitterness, even with the guys that you've had that journey with. It must have been really difficult.
Yeah, it is. It's been a journey. Let's just say that it's been a journey, but hopefully it's made me.
Yeah, on a positive note, they say you've got the shows this year, and obviously sounds like there's reconciliation with the guys, and there'll either be a sort of full stop on it this year, or maybe it's just the start of the next phase. But if we that's the positive to take from it. But you've been quite public about, and you already said in our chat, but been about your mental health journey and periods of depression and anxiety, even in the last few years in your period of marriage. But you chose to be quite open about that, and I wonder what the reasons were and what you hoped to sort of get from that.
I think for me it was just I had to say something because I'd let it build up inside me for many years, and I didn't know what the feelings were. I didn't actually know what, I knew I was feeling sad and down and stressed and like I couldn't leave the house at times, but I didn't know what that was. I didn't know the words for it. I didn't know that was anxiety. I didn't know that was depression.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was body dysmorphia, insecurities, all of the stuff that I suffer with even now. So for me, it was, I had to sort of somehow talk about it. And I think that once I spoke openly and honestly about it on my social media, I thought, do you know what? I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say one day, I just said, I'm just going to say how I feel. So I posted a little video of me basically saying, hey guys, I think I just got back from Costa Rica, a work trip. So I said, hey guys, I've just got back from Costa Rica and I've been feeling like this for a long time and I don't know what it is, but I wake up and I feel like I can't leave the house. I don't really want to attack the day. I don't want to do anything. I just feel numb. I feel a sense of loneliness and all this stuff. And I just went off on a tangent and kind of just said what came out. And I ummed and ahed for the whole day thinking, shall I post this? Shall I not? Is it a bit too personal? Is it a bit much? I don't want people thinking it's attention seeking because I'm not trying to do that. And I just thought, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to post it. And I posted it. And the reaction I got was just...
And what was the reaction?
It was actually really sad. In one way, it was really sad because actually there are so many people out there that feel the way I feel. And actually at the time I was feeling so sad and so down that if people felt like that, I felt sorry for them because I could feel it. So for me, there was one side of it that was really sad. There was another side of it that was actually really empowering and actually made me feel, okay, I'm not the only one. There are other
No. And you've taken some ownership of it, I suppose, as well.
Exactly. And I own it. I'm owning my feelings, it's not controlling me. That's one of the biggest steps in terms of your mental health journey, is actually kind of accepting that you are struggling and accepting that you are feeling the way you're feeling. And I had definitely done that by posting it to all of my followers. And I just thought it started from there, really. It was okay. And then lots of people would message me, I can't believe how many messages I got from it. It was mind blowing. And I just, people were checking in with me, and I then kind of built up this headspace of feeling like I had a responsibility to keep people updated and to keep, to sort of continue talking about it, raise awareness around it, because actually a lot of messages that I got were people saying, thank you for speaking about it. Thank you for making me feel less alone. So that was a really beautiful thing, because I could tell I was helping people, and that felt good. And that was almost therapy for me. And hopefully it helped other people. So,
and what did you do about what were the sort of practical things you did once you had the realizations around, that you weren't feeling great? Did you go and seek professional help?
My mum and my wife were very keen on me doing that. I was, for quite a while, very stubborn, like I think a lot of men are.
Like men are, yeah.
Yeah. And women, of course, but I think in particular men are very stubborn with things like that. And I kind of batted it off and almost laughed it off at times, sort of thing. I don't need therapy. Like that's, that's pathetic. That was my kind of headspace. And to be completely honest, things had got so bad after that I got myself in a position where, I hadn't left the house for weeks. I was in bed for days and days, not eating, not leaving the bed, not washing, not cleaning my teeth, doing all the kind of simple things. And it got to the point where I think, bless my wife, she was in a position where she didn't know what to do anymore.
Of course.
She was calling my mum for help. She was calling friends for help. And my auntie then sent me a link that said, look, Katy Perry's just talked about this mental health retreat institute thing that she's done in America, and it says it's changed her life and blah, blah, blah. This could be really good for you. Again, I did the typical thing of batting it off. I'm not doing that. Like, that's a waste of money, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I eventually got round to doing it. And that was the kind of start of me, saving my life, really. I know that sounds dramatic, but it had got to a point where I didn't want to be here anymore.
But it doesn't, when you describe it like that and talk about, the stage that you got to, it doesn't sound dramatic. It's, it was obvious that, I'm not by no means an expert, but, I guess even in the retelling now that, all those, like you say, the regular things that you do just to live life and get up and get on with your day and get dressed and washed. And, if you're not doing those things and you're feeling that low and not eating, that's pretty major, isn't it? And so,
it's,
I guess it was absolutely the right thing to do. And that set you on a path of sort of understanding a bit more, did it?
Absolutely. Yeah. It was just the kind of, the kick up the arse that I needed to kind of get me back on the straight and narrow, really, with, with being a good husband, with being a good friend, with being a good son, and also actually being the best possible version of myself to get through each day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that. And then I had some regular therapy after that. I felt like I still needed a bit more help. So I went to the doctors and they put me on some mild antidepressants. So, I've been through that sort of journey, and I still feel like, I'm still in a position where I need to check in on myself regularly. I still have down days a lot, but I can deal with them better now. And I want to make sure that for as long as I have a platform to talk about it on, I want to continue to speak about these things, because if, like I said, people feel the way I felt, that's a really difficult place to be in. And I can only feel sorry for people that feel that way.
So sort of heart-wrenching hearing the story. And I suppose, did you ever encounter any of the sort of pushback? Because I hope there isn't, but you can imagine some people saying, well, he's a young guy and he's a musician and he's good looking, he's got a beautiful wife. And, people have a certain, maybe through the lens of social media or TV, whatever it is, but almost that idea that, well, what are you moaning about? Why are you having, you can't be having difficulty because your life is like X, Y, Z. And of course we know, everyone's having their own experiences, but did you ever, was that ever in the back of your head, or did people say it more explicitly? Like, what's your problem?
Yeah, it was actually, there were two sides to it. The side of people would sort of say, oh my God, like the fact that you're saying this when you've achieved what you've achieved, etc., that just makes me feel so much better. But then there was a flip side of it that people were like, oh, shut up, mate. What have you got to moan about? Like there's actually people out there struggling and all of this stuff. And that was quite tough, because actually I didn't I'm a very normal, very, very normal person, very normal guy that likes the typical lad things. I'm nothing special. I've just happened to have, I guess, a talent with my voice, and it led me, with some lots of hard work, it led me to kind of experiencing some amazing things. But actually, mental health is mental health. Like 2 weeks ago, I was away in one of the most amazing places in the world with my wife, and we were on a lovely holiday, having a nice time. And
I saw some of the images; it looked absolutely
it
stunning.
was just beautiful. But I woke up one morning and I was like, I don't want to. I was feeling very low, very down. There were things sneaking in my brain where I don't want to be here anymore. I'd rather just not be around. These kind of negative feelings are creeping in, and actually, what that proves is it doesn't matter where you are, what you do, what it is, what position you're in. Actually, mental health can affect everyone, and it's all relative to each situation. And that was tough, but I think the more I spoke about it and the more that people could see it was genuine, I think people that may have thought those negative things around me about speaking about it, I think they started to understand that actually, this guy is completely legit here. He is obviously struggling. And I think then it kind of slowly turned into a mutual respect with those kind of people that may have felt like that at the start. That was definitely something to, even my friends, even, I'm not, if some of my mates listen to this, like, I don't want them feeling bad, but there were a good few of my friends that would say that. They go, what, mate, what on earth are you on about? Like, you've got this, you've got that. And that made it worse because it made me feel like I couldn't feel those things.
That sort of delegitimizes it somehow, that you're not allowed to feel that way.
Exactly. And that was really difficult. That was really, really difficult, actually.
And I suppose, for mates and family, we understand physical problems or, leg breaks and things that happen to your body physically, but it must be difficult. Well, it's so difficult to experience it. But as you said originally, this idea of, well, at what point am I supposed to do something about this? Because, I would understand straight away if I broke my arm because it would feel awful and I'd need to fix it. But I guess there's a continuum, isn't there, with mental health? And at what point should I take action? And obviously, as you described, you got to a pretty low ebb. But I suppose for people on the outside to offer help and offer support, it's quite difficult to know where you are on that journey and that continuum, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I always say to people that ask me, when should I reach out for help? I think if you're asking me that question, I think that's a clear indication that you probably could do with a bit of extra help, whether it be speaking to friends, speaking to your family, going to the doctors, speaking to the NHS about some therapy, whatever it is.
There's help out there, isn't there?
There is help out there. Yeah. And I know there's a wait list for therapy on the NHS, but there are charities out there. I'm running the London Marathon for Samaritans in April, and
amazing.
They're a charity that are really close to my heart. I've called, I've been there, I've called them. I felt like I needed someone to speak to. So there is help out there. I think it's just accepting it in your own head, realizing it's not a sign of weakness is the most important thing. Actually, understanding you need help, in my opinion, is one of the strongest, most powerful things you can do as a human being.
Yeah.
So take that on board, use that strength, and start from there.
And I think it's really valuable to hear it from another man. And I guess guilty of potentially being sexist about this, but there is a thing where, whether it's pride or, slightly more old-fashioned views, but us men are, we want to give across this idea that everything's okay. And for some reason or other, it seems harder to admit some of these things. And with people like you and other people in the media, hopefully there's some step changes in that at the moment. But there is something in the male psyche, isn't there, about, make everything okay and providing and, just sort of carrying on with stuff and batting it away. And it's not helpful in the end, is it? It's
not. No, it's not. It's something I try and encourage in my friendship group. I think since I've been open and honest, I think a lot of my mates have actually also taken that. And, we have a lot more in-depth conversations now. There's actually conversations about how we feel as opposed to just football and small talk and, a bit of banter here and there. I think that actually in our friendship groups, there's always a couple of people that have, everyone has different roles in friendship groups, right? So everyone's got their different roles that they play. What are you? God, that's a good question. I've never been asked that. I'm the kind of like sarcastic joker, but the emotionally available one. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm the kind of one that when people are struggling about something, whether it be relationship or work or whatever it is, I'm the kind of one that they come to, which is really nice because, I
and
love...
You've got experience now, haven't
Yeah,
you?
exactly. And I feel like I can talk about it. But I think that actually, as lads, that if you have got that in you, that kind of like emotional side, use it to your advantage and actually encourage the rest of your lad mates to open up and actually have a conversation, because there is always in one group at least one of those type of people that are more inclined to do that. So it's just about having the guts to kind of do it
and be emotionally available. And Roman Kemp's talks a lot about this kind of thing as well, doesn't he? Of actually having real conversations with your mates and saying, are you really okay? Rather than, as you say, we can all fall into the trap of just having that sort of superficial, talking about football or mates or whatever it is. But to actually to ask and to listen, and not necessarily to sort of jump in with the next gag or whatever, but just to that listening ear and not judging. It's really important for men, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But listen, we should we'll talk more about you and Uni and Jay. But I'm also really interested because obviously in the last few years, hugely successful content creator and digital creator online with over nearly sort of 450,000 followers on Instagram. So how did that sort of transition into this digital space and, influencer and, kind of doing travel and fashion and sort of grooming stuff? Was that sort of a natural evolution? Did someone approach you early on? How did that happen?
It's interesting. I think my Chloe, so I'd met Chloe, my wife.
This is your wife?
Yeah. So I met her 8 years ago, and about 6 months after meeting was when we were dropped from Uni and J, and kind of things started to slow down with that. And I sort of, she was great. She sort of encouraged me to do some sort of modeling stuff and get in front of the camera and do some photo shoots. And we went to LA for a bit and we spent some time there. And I think she was the reason I've kind of got into this sort of content creating influencer world, because she was starting to get into it herself. So actually it was just a natural progression for me to kind of do something similar together. And, we just started documenting our life, our travels, and slowly it kind of just turned into a passion of mine of creating content and posting about it. And I slowly sort of built up a following that maybe was different to the other boys' following, which was just people that followed us because we were in a boy band. But actually I started to build a following. I'm very much aware that I lost, and I've lost quite a lot of kind of boy band fans or Uni and J fans along the way, because actually a lot of the stuff I've put out there has been men's fashion or men's grooming, or which predominantly girls maybe aren't particularly interested in, which is fine. But I've managed to actually grow a really big male following, which I'm very grateful for, because, they're the ones that allow me to work with the brands that I work with and create the content I create. So it was a very natural progression from the band. And I just love the kind of, I get a buzz when I get a campaign. I did a we spoke off air about this, but I did a Mont Blanc.
Yeah, the Mont Blanc thing.
And it was just, it was just brilliant. I was just so happy and so excited to have been approached by a brand that I have loved for as long as I can remember. So for me, that was a very proud moment. It's like, oh my God, like that's a top brand that want to work with me. That's a real pinch me moment. And I think I've still got that buzz when campaigns come in. So I said to Chloe recently, I said, for as long as the buzz is there, I will continue to do it. The moment that that's gone, I will look elsewhere at doing other things.
It becomes a chore, that.
Exactly. So it's been great fun, and I've really enjoyed the kind of process. Like, it obviously comes with its, God, does it come with its down days and stresses, because everything is very public. So we're essentially
you're still putting yourself out there, aren't
you? Exactly. If a piece of content bombs and flops and isn't seen by anyone and no one likes it, then that's you can't hide away from that. It's out there for everyone to see. So it comes with its pros and cons for sure.
And does it help doing it with Chloe? I mean, it feels like some of the content you do together, that it's. I mean, I'll put links and everything on the show notes and let people know where they can find you.
Thank you.
If they haven't done already. But it must be nice to be able to do that with your wife. And there's some great fashion stuff and some lifestyle stuff that you do together. I guess it's is it helpful for you to be able to support each other and sort of bounce off each other with that stuff?
For sure. I mean, it's lovely being able to work together and come together on our terms. I guess it's really nice. It's also good for me because I'm a lazy bastard. And so
she can drive you.
Yeah. So if I'm seeing her,
make it happen.
If I'm seeing her posting a load of stuff and I'm being lazy, then it's like,
get on with it,
Josh. Like, get up, get your shit done. So it's actually it's nice in that sense. But then you can flip it and you can kind of think, well, it can also then make you feel a bit crap about yourself because the person you're spending every day of your life with is being really proactive, and if you're not, it can often make you feel a bit sluggish and a bit.
Yeah.
But actually, it's a funny one. Doing the same thing as your partner is a real funny one because you can't help but naturally be a tiny bit competitive because you're human beings.
I suppose. Yeah, of course.
And I'm not God. I want her to succeed. Of course I do. But actually, there's this tiny part of you as a human being that's just competitive against everyone. And you can't get rid of that sometimes. So it's a funny one. It's a real kind of like, it's a difficult one to balance and juggle around with. But I'd much rather have someone that I'm with that completely understands my job than not. So
for some of those Union J fans or people who are fans of your music, I mean, you still post, I think you do your sort of Sunday singing thing. So there is still some killer vocals in there occasionally as well. So nice to keep.
I don't know if they're killer anymore, but I appreciate that.
Still got it.
Very kind. It's nice to see. I love my singing, and for me, with my mental health, having routine is the most important thing. So I set myself a goal at the start of the year to post a singing cover every single Sunday. So I at least know I've got that routine booked in every single week.
Yeah,
which is nice. So yeah, it's cool.
And singing's good for the soul anyway, isn't
Absolutely,
it? Singing
mate.
make you feel good.
Absolutely.
I think, even as
even if you can't sing, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah, me as a rank amateur, actually, it's a lovely thing. Yeah, it just makes you feel good, I think.
Absolutely.
Well, look, the name of the podcast is Man in the Mirror, and as you know, one of the things I like to find out about is what my guest has as their sort of key bathroom essentials and those items that they can't do without. And as we've talked about already, I know you've done some campaigns with some amazing fragrance brands and grooming and lifestyle brands. So I've no doubt that you've got an excellent regime and you've got certain products that you like. So it'd be great if you could just touch on, maybe some of those key products that you have in your morning and evening routines, skincare and fragrance and things like that. So how about sort of skincare in the morning, Josh? Have you got certain hero products?
So my main kind of skincare routine is in the evening, actually. So before bed, I'll always wash my face with a face wash. Dermalogica is a brilliant has some brilliant products for that stuff. I use a daily microfoliant, which I didn't know existed until 3-4 years ago. It's kind of like you basically exfoliate your skin, but
it's gentle,
very subtly, very gentle, and it kind of just gets rid of dirt and oils that build up, which ultimately can lead to spots and dark circles on your eyes. It can lead to kind of lots of different stuff. So that's the kind of first thing I do. I always make sure I wash my face, because even if you're at home, you're still collecting dirt on your face. You're still collecting,
of course,
dirt everywhere. So actually, washing your face, in my opinion, is the most important thing you can do. And then things just like moisturizing. I don't think I've missed a moisturizing evening for years now. And the one I've got it in my hand at the moment. The one I use at the moment is Kiehl's Ultra Facial Cream, which is super lightweight, really easy to apply. It doesn't feel like you're kind of putting when sometimes moisturize.
They can be really heavy, can't they?
You can almost feel like you've got suntan lotion on and you're like, this on my face. But that's a super light one.
Kiehl's are great.
Kiehl's brilliant.
Kiehl's a really good men's range.
Kiehl's great. And, for years I kind of would steal Chloe's products and experiment with them. And then I remember making a massive error once where I saw something that said about making you feel a bit less tired and look a bit more tanned. And I thought, bloody hell, that sounds good. I'll have a bit of that. Give me a bit of that.
I'm in.
Put some in and then woke up. Honestly, I looked like Oompa Loompa. It was absolutely horrendous.
Oh, no.
I looked in the mirror. I thought, Jesus Christ, looks like he's been on holiday for about 12 weeks.
This wasn't the idea.
But I think actually being a man, and actually once you kind of, everyone's a bit sort of like nosy and a bit intrigued by that. Even if you don't think you're into your skincare, I think everyone's got a little bit of especially if your partner's into it. I think you're like, oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've got myself in a routine. I also tone as well, which Chloe taught me to do. I say taught, but she told me to do that in the last couple of years. I've got a few different toners that I use, and that's always good to do before you moisturize. So you wash your face, then tone, then moisturize. And then obviously you've got your kind of eye products, eye care, where you can help target dark circles, which for me is a big insecurity of mine.
Me too.
Yeah.
I've got a sort of rollerball one I use from Heath. Have you got a certain brand?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a Heath one actually. I've got Elizabeth Arden do some really good stuff. They do this, it's a vitamin C capsule thing, which for me just helps bring out brightness in my skin. It helps you, especially if you're tired at the moment and you've got a busy schedule or you're not getting so much sleep, just having something that can actually make you feel a bit more alive from a visual point of view. Yeah, so that's what I really enjoy that actually. So I put that after my moisturizer, and then I've also got a morning. The only thing I do in the morning actually is a Lab Series kind of daily rescue energizing moisturizer thing, which I just put on every single morning when I wake up. It's very light. It's very easy to put on. I just put a little bit of that on and
sets you up.
Yeah, that's kind of my routine really. I mean, I do experiment with different products here and there, but I think what's quite important is actually getting products that work for you, and then just getting yourself
get some consistency.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
And what about shaving, Josh? I think you've got a bit of. Do you tend to leave a bit of stubble?
Yep. I've got. I very rarely clean shave, if I'm honest, because I look a bit like a tadpole. So I try and avoid that as much as I can. But I do keep it.
No one needs to look like a tadpole.
Exactly. No one wants that. No one wants that on their homepage anyway. On this, I do like I just keep it super simple. If I'm honest, mate, I do like a short trim, which is like a 0.5 all over every week.
Your electric?
Yeah, just with an electric trimmer. I just do it every week and let it grow out, and I kind of. Yeah, I trim it when I feel like I look in the mirror and go, God, you look a bit.
But it's nice then, isn't it? Because you've got the flexibility that can, if it's a few more days, it's fine, isn't it? If that's the look, the stubble look, it's perfect for me too. I've got a bit more beard, but I wouldn't want to be clean shaving
I think just it can often shape people's faces and give you a bit of confidence. So I think that finding the right kind of beard length for you is a really great step in the right direction when it comes to your appearance and feeling confident in your own skin. So, some people suit it, some people don't. I think it's just about experimenting and finding what suits you best, really.
Absolutely. So we've talked about Mont Blanc and doing some work with fragrance. And are you someone that has a sort of signature scent, or do you have sort of this idea of a fragrance wardrobe, a few more things to go for depending on season or your mood? What's your relationship with fragrance?
Mine is, we're very lucky. Chloe and I get sent quite a few. So we sort of, brands sort of send us some. So I'm in a very lucky position where I can try different ones without kind of having to break the bank a lot.
Forking out hundreds of pounds.
Exactly. So I sort of experiment with mine. I mean, I definitely have my favorites. There's no denying that, but they'll actually change each year. Like I think last year was my Mont Blanc Explorer range, which I loved, like the blue and the black one, absolutely brilliant. Actually, really affordable as well. Not really affordable, but they're not crazy prices that you're like, Jesus Christ, like that's daylight robbery. Yeah. You can actually get some, you can get a top fragrance for a decent price. So that's one of my favorites. I actually recently have tried the Creed Silver Mountain. Is it Silver Mountain? I think.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
There is
absolutely beautiful.
Creed makes some beautiful fragrances.
They really do. And then you've got your Carolina Herrera, which is a classic, which I love, the Bad Boy one, which is beautiful.
Great.
And then apart from that, I've got the Gucci one. I can't remember what that one's called. Givenchy are launching a new one, which is really exciting for you guys listening out there. They're coming out with a new one in the next 3 weeks, actually, 2-3 weeks. So that's one to keep you.
Yeah, watch out for that one.
Yeah. So I'm definitely into my fragrances for sure.
That sounds really good. And one of the other things I like to find out about Man in the Mirror is, as the name suggests, your relationship with self-image. And I think, from what we've talked about before, this could be, this is a really interesting area, and, just really keen to find out about, when you're looking in the bathroom mirror in the morning, what you think about your appearance and what sort of relationship you have with your image now?
It's a pretty terrible relationship, if I'm honest.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's something that I know I need to deal with. Actually, I don't think I've ever properly dealt with that side of my mental health sort of struggles, really.
And because you mentioned body dysmorphia earlier, and you genuinely have a sort of idea, you're not very kind to yourself in terms of when you look at yourself, you're not happy.
I hate myself. Yeah, I pick myself apart every day. Yeah, there's no denying that, and I think it's a real crippling feeling, because you just sort of, most mornings and evenings I end or start the day with me feeling, God, look at me, I hate myself. So it's quite it's a difficult thing to sort of deal with. But
and is it about sort of seeing yourself as a different way, to unhappy with certain aspects of your appearance? Are you're able to sort of articulate what it is you don't like?
Yeah, I mean,
is that difficult?
I just I sort of fixate on different things every few months. Sometimes, like I said earlier, it's my insecurities with looking tired. Then it's my insecurities with getting a couple of grey hairs on the side of my head. Then it's insecurities about my chin not being as tight as it once was, or feeling a bit fat, or having big hips, or having a massive arse, or having chunky legs, or my arms aren't ripped enough, or my abs aren't existent anymore. All of these sort of things come into my brain, and
it's vicious, isn't it? And it isn't the way we talk about other people, and yet these are the sort of the words and the adjectives that come into our head about ourselves. And again, as we talked about earlier, I guess there could be this misconception, and people might say, well, I've seen Josh on Instagram, and he's a good, he's a young, good-looking guy. Our kind of superficial view of how that would be. So it can be a surprise, I suppose, to hear about those sort of dysmorphia aspects. But again, there's nothing to say that it can be indiscriminate, can't it? These feelings, and you or me or anybody, or your wife or anybody telling you,
doesn't make a difference.
Josh, you're great, and we think you're brilliant, and you look great, and all that. I guess maybe it doesn't always help.
Make a difference. Yeah, it really doesn't. And that's the.
It's such a shame, isn't it? It's such a thing to deal with. And
they just, no matter what anyone says, it won't change the way I feel about myself. So that is, that is body dysmorphia. What's really interesting, though, and I feel like is a step in the right direction for me personally, is 3-4 years ago, I remember being in the exact headspace with my body and the way I looked. So, and I used to hate myself and punish myself, etc., etc. But now I would die to look like I did 3-4 years ago, which is interesting. Yeah, because it's kind of like,
what? So you now you'd look back on that version and go,
I'd be like, God, look at you, he was ripped, he looked great, he's in great shape. Whereas at the time, I felt the opposite.
So the sort of follow-up logic to that is, in 2025, you'll look back at Josh in February 23 and go, God, he looked pretty good.
And that.
But that's a simplistic view.
And ultimately that shows that actually you have to just live in the moment. You just have to, you have to just try and love yourself as much as you can, because is it RuPaul that Chloe watches all the time? If you can't love yourself, how the hell can you love somebody else, or whatever it is? And it's so true.
Yeah.
For years I punished myself, and I was unable to truly love someone else, i.e. my wife, and truly be the best husband I could be. So actually, sometimes you just have to give yourself a bit of a break. But it's tough. It's definitely.
And there is that idea of like the plane crashing, and you kind of need to get some oxygen yourself, don't you, before you can help other people. And then I think, it sounds trite to say we have to love ourselves, but you're absolutely right. It's important to have that stability and to feel good about yourself, so that you can give that out to other people, and give your love and friendship and kinship to others.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I hope you can you can sort of get some more help there, and because it's horrible to think of you, as you say, the sort of first thing or last thing, not being the most sort of, not giving you the good mental headspace and make you feel good as you wake up or go to bed. It's horrible to hear.
Yeah. And for some people maybe listening to this, it can, maybe they go, oh God, Josh is, that's a very vain way of looking at life. But actually, I think for me, talking about my experiences, is that from an early age of an 18, 19-year-old guy, and going to auditions and being judged on not just my singing voice, but actually being judged on the way I look, being told I need to change certain things about my appearance. I think I've it's ingrained in me that actually the way I look is almost at times has been my self-worth. Like, it's all come down to that. And that's a really horrible headspace to be in. But the brutal reality of it is that was what a lot of people made me, unintentionally, for sure. And there was no malice behind a lot of it. But that's just unintentionally what people have made me feel like I'm, if I'm not looking good, I'm not important, or I'm not.
You don't have.
I'm not
that's
good
your
enough.
validity, and yeah. Oh, I understand that totally, and I've heard that from other guests and actors, or influencers. That's it becomes your sense of self and self-worth, doesn't it? And it's hard to sort of silence those voices sometimes when you can be too critical of yourself.
Absolutely.
Look, final thing, Josh, and hopefully we can end on something really nice. Is just I wonder what brings you happiness and joy. When you have those moments that you think, oh, this is great, or it can be as trivial or as big as you like. But what are the things that bring you joy?
Just seeing the people I love happy. That for me is just the most amazing feeling. Laughing and smiling and being with the people I love, being with my family, being with my mates. And for me, that's just the most important thing. And I always sit there and I say to Chloe, I'm not interested. Don't get me wrong. Like, if you offered me 5 million quid tomorrow, of course I'm going to say, yeah, obviously I'll take it. But for me, the most important things in my life aren't about money. They're not about that stuff. It's not about the fancy cars, all that. I've always said to Chloe, if I can just, I know this sounds really weird, but if I can eat nice food that I really love and be with the person I love, having amazing conversations, that for me is when I'm at my happiest.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. And I guess in turn, she would say, and your friends would say that, they'd want that happiness. It's interesting and lovely that, you're sort of projecting it out and wanting that happiness for other people, but they would absolutely want that.
I hope so.
For you as well.
I hope so. For sure. Yeah, for sure. Which is lovely.
Oh, Josh, thank you so much for your time and being so open. It's been so interesting to hear about the journey from reality TV 10, 11 years ago and the successes you've made of the work you're doing now. And it's so great. I love seeing your content online. So I'm going to put some more information about some of the products you mentioned and where people can find you online. But for now, thank you so much. And I've really appreciate how candid and just having a real conversation with such emotional honesty it's going to help other people, and it's been really insightful for me too. So thank you so much, and take care.
No, thank you, and thank you for talking about the things you talk about, because you also are helping start the conversation. So
thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Pleasure
as well, mate. I really do.
Well, look, you take care, and I'll see you soon. Thanks, Josh.
No worries. Cheers, mate.
All the best. Bye. Well, I hope you took a lot from that conversation with Josh. I certainly did. It was really heartbreaking to hear that he, still some issues around self-image and what he sees when he looks in the mirror. And again, as I said, it's sort of, you can look at these things and think, oh God, he's a good-looking guy, and what on earth can be the problem with what he looks like? But we all know from ourselves that's not how it works at all, and we are our own worst critics, and it doesn't matter who you are, and it's kind of an indiscriminate thing. So my thanks to Josh for being so open and honest in our conversation. And of course, it was great to hear about the products that he likes and how fantastically he's doing with his content creation. You can find Josh on Instagram at Josh Cuthbert, which is JoshCuthbert. So that's Josh Cuthbert on Instagram. So he's got over 440,000 followers there, and really great content. I don't know how some of these content creators, the kind of suddenly changing outfit and moving around. I sound old now, but he's really brilliant at it. And there's also plenty of content there with his wife, Chloe. So huge thanks to Josh. As always, there'll be more information about the products that he referenced in the program notes. And if you want to find out more about Man in the Mirror, I'm on Instagram at Man in the Mirror Pod. And you can find out about previous guests and other episodes and things that might be coming up in the future. So thank you to Josh. I hope it's been helpful. And of course, thank you to you for listening. I'll be back with more Man in the Mirror soon. Take care.